guns to bombard London with 600 shells per hour. Construction commenced in September 1943 under absolute secrecy. Engineers selected the site specifically for its strategic advantages: 8 kilometers inland, preventing Royal Navy attacks, proximity to a railway line for materials transport, and solid chalk geology providing stability. The underground complex featured 2 600-meter-long railway tunnels buried 30 meters deep. Above these, 5 massive inclined shafts, angled at 50 degrees, would house the gun barrels. The workforce comprised over 5,000 laborers, including German engineers, miners from the Ruhr, and enslaved Soviet prisoners working in brutal 12-hour shifts. Allied intelligence initially misidentified the site as a V-2 rocket base. Nevertheless, between November 1943 and August 1944, Allied bombers dropped over 4,102 tons of explosives on the complex. The decisive attack came on July 6, 1944, when RAF's 617 Squadron, Dambusters, deployed 16 12,000-pound tallboy earthquake bombs. These penetrated deep underground, causing catastrophic tunnel collapses and flooding. Canadian forces captured the abandoned fortress on September 5, 1944, without resistance. Afterward, Winston Churchill ordered its complete demolition in May 1945, using 36 tons of TNT, considering the site the most devastating attack of all. Today, the partially preserved complex operates as a museum, featuring monuments to both Allied airmen and slave workers who perished at the site. These bunkers weren't just shelters, they were part of something much bigger. But why did the Nazis go to such lengths to hide them? And how are they still being found today, almost a century later? Some were full of rust and rubble, others filled with shocking discoveries. So don't blink, and definitely don't skip ahead. Bunker number 1 will give you goosebumps, guaranteed. Number 14. Mézy Battery, France. Just inland from Normandy's landing beaches lies one of the most remarkable secret German fascists' installations rediscovered in recent decades. The Mézy Battery remained buried and forgotten for over 60 years, until British amateur historian Gary Stern made an extraordinary discovery in 2004. Stern's discovery began with a chance find: a hand-drawn map in an American veteran's uniform pocket, marking an area of high resistance near Grand Camp Mézy. After locating initial bunker entrances hidden beneath dense vegetation, Stern purchased the 44-hectare site from 27 different landowners. Excavation work commenced in September 2005, revealing an extensive complex that had completely vanished from historical records. Recent excavations in 2008 uncovered additional bunkers untouched since 1945, containing remarkable artifacts including German fascists' helmets, gas masks, ammunition, and evidence of potential firefights. Researchers utilized LiDAR technology to study the site thoroughly, revealing burn marks on bunker ceilings suggesting combat during the facility's capture. The battery comprised 2 primary defensive positions: WN-83 Les Perruques, featuring 6 155mm French howitzers, and WN-84 La Martinière, containing 4 120mm guns. Overall, the complex contained 14 massive guns, including 100mm howitzers, capable of firing on both Utah and Omaha beaches. Essentially, a small underground city, the facility featured over 3 kilometers of trenches connecting numerous structures, including personnel bunkers, an anti-aircraft radar control center, ammunition storage, a hospital, and officer quarters. The battery was strategically positioned below ground level in gently sloping countryside, making it virtually invisible to Allied reconnaissance. Interestingly, despite extensive pre-invasion bombardments, Mézy Battery remained operational throughout D-Day, continuing to shell Utah and Omaha beaches for 3 days after the landings. This oversight occurred primarily because Allied intelligence focused attention on nearby Pointe du Hoc, while the Germans had built Mézy in complete secrecy. Ultimately, U.S. Rangers launched an assault on June 9, 1944, with elements of the 5th Ranger Battalion engaged in a 5-hour battle marked by intense close-quarters combat. The assault claimed 18 American casualties before the position was captured. Upon seizure, Rangers discovered over 180 tons of ammunition stockpiled in the facility, enough to sustain weeks of additional bombardment. Number 13. Secret Nazi bunkers in Denmark. Denmark's coastline holds some of the most remarkably preserved German fascists' fortifications in Europe, with approximately 7,000 bunkers constructed along its western shore as part of Hitler's Atlantic Wall. These massive concrete structures, built between 1940 and 1945, represent the largest construction project in Danish history, costing an equivalent of 400 billion kroner in today's currency. In 2008, violent storms along Denmark's Hovig Beach uncovered a historical treasure trove when waves swept away sand dunes, revealing 4 fully furnished German fascists' bunkers untouched since 1945. Local history enthusiast Tommy Cassoy was among the first to explore these time capsules after 2 9-year-old boys located them. Inside, archaeologists found an astonishing collection of personal items: tobacco pipes, half-finished schnapps bottles, military uniforms, Hitler stamps, medicine vials, and communication equipment. Bent Anthonysen, a Danish expert on European bunkers, described the discovery as unique in Europe. As one archaeologist noted, it was like entering the heart of a pyramid with mummies all around. Subsequently, conservation efforts began immediately, with artifacts transferred to the Oldgod Museum's Conservation Center. The race to preserve these items became urgent, as attempted break-ins occurred within days of the discovery. Beyond these newly discovered bunkers, Denmark has transformed several others into museums. The Tirpitz bunker in Blåvand, once part of Hitler's Atlantic Wall, reopened in 2017 as the Blåvand Bunker Museum, which expects to attract around 100,000 visitors annually. Similarly, Bangsbo Fort Battery in Frederikshavn now operates as a museum showcasing original German 100mm naval guns installed in 1944. The Bunker Museum Hirtshals offers visitors access to 54 excavated bunkers connected by 3.5 kilometers of trenches. Public reaction to these discoveries has been mixed. Some Danes, like Ole Becker, whose grandfather was in the resistance, compared the discovery to Tutankhamun's tomb, arguing that preservation honors historical truth. However, others expressed disgust, with local resident Mogens Koch Hansen writing that everything should be blown up. The editorial board of Dagbladet Ringkøbing Skjern newspaper supported preservation, stating, "They are part of our common European history." According to museum curator Kim Clausen, although not from the Bronze Age, these findings are incredibly authentic and tell us a lot about how they lived in these bunkers. Today, these controversial structures have become popular tourist destinations, attracting thousands of visitors from both Denmark and neighboring Germany. Number 12. Wolf's Lair, Poland. Hidden deep within Poland's Masurian woods, the Wolf's Lair, Wolfschanze, served as Hitler's primary Eastern Front headquarters during World War II. This massive concrete fortress became one of the Third Reich's most secretive and strategically significant military installations. Situated near the town of Kętrzyn in northeastern Poland, the Wolf's Lair complex sprawled across 250 hectares of dense forest, deliberately chosen for its remote location and natural camouflage. Construction began in 1940, eventually encompassing 200 buildings, including bunkers, barracks, and support facilities. Hitler spent more than 800 days at this fortified compound between 1941 and 1944, directing military operations while surrounded by his closest advisors and security personnel. The bunker walls reached an impressive thickness of 8 meters in some sections, designed to withstand potential aerial bombardment. On July 20, 1944, the Wolf's Lair became the site of the most famous assassination attempt against Hitler. Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg, participating in a military briefing, placed a briefcase containing explosives beneath a conference table. The explosion killed 4 men, but Hitler survived with only minor injuries after someone inadvertently moved the briefcase behind a heavy oak table leg. The failed plot, known as Operation Valkyrie, resulted in brutal reprisals. The Gestapo arrested more than 7,000 people and eventually executed nearly 5,000 suspected conspirators. Von Stauffenberg himself was shot by firing squad in Berlin just hours after the attempt. In 2015, construction workers made a grim discovery near the Wolf's Lair complex. Human remains that archaeologists later identified as belonging to a former concentration camp prisoner. Further excavation revealed this individual was likely part of the forced labor battalions conscripted to build or maintain the massive fortification. Today, the Wolf's Lair attracts nearly 300,000 visitors annually who walk among the partially demolished ruins, offering a sobering glimpse into the nerve center of German fascists' military operations on the Eastern Front. Number 11. Elbe II U-boat bunker, Germany. Located at Hamburg's Vulkenhafen on the southern bank of the Elbe River, the Elbe II U-boat bunker represents one of the most intriguing submarine facilities constructed during World War II. Built in 1941 with 50,000 cubic meters of concrete, this massive structure was designed to protect Germany's advanced submarine fleet. On November 11, 1945, 6 months after Germany's surrender, British Royal Engineers executed a controlled demolition of Elbe II using 32 tons of explosives. The powerful detonation caused the bunker's central dividing wall to collapse, resulting in catastrophic roof failure. This intentional destruction effectively sealed the fate of the submarines within, creating an accidental time capsule of German fascists' naval technology. The structure, despite this severe damage, proved remarkably resilient. So much so that subsequent demolition attempts in 2001 using 150 kilograms of dynamite barely affected the remaining fortification. The entombed submarines remained virtually forgotten until 1985, when researchers Jack P. Malman-Schoel, Wolfgang Hirschfeld, and Walter Klutz rediscovered them. Their exploration yielded remarkable photographs documenting the submarine's condition after 4 decades underwater. Following this rediscovery, the site became a target for souvenir hunters, who sometimes dug down to open hatches to retrieve artifacts. Ultimately, in the 1990s, German authorities filled the bunker with gravel and concrete, transforming the area into a parking lot. Today, these once fearsome warships lie beneath the Hamburg Free Port, completely inaccessible and requiring passport presentation to visit even the surface area. From hidden tunnels to strange objects, no one can explain. Each one tells a story they never taught in history class. And wait until you see bunker number 5. It's like walking straight into a frozen moment from the past. Stay with us, because the last one might just rewrite everything you thought you knew. Number 10. Hohlgangsanlage Tunnels, Jersey. Among the most extensive fortifications in the occupied Channel Islands, the Hohlgangsanlage tunnels of Jersey represent a particularly grim chapter of German fascists' engineering. The name literally translates to cave passage installations, uniquely applied only to tunnel complexes in the Channel Islands within Hitler's Atlantic Wall defenses. Begun in 1941, the Jersey Tunnel Complex, designated HOT, was designed primarily as an underground shelter for German troops against potential Allied air raids. Excavated to depths of 50 meters underground and extending 300 meters into the hillside, these tunnels formed part of an ambitious network that consumed disproportionate resources. Notably, by 1944, the Channel Islands tunnels required extraction of 244,000 cubic meters of rock, remarkably more than the entire Atlantic Wall from Norway to Spain, 225,000 cubic meters. Construction relied heavily on forced labor, with over 5,000 workers from across Europe, including Russians, Poles, French, and Spanish Republicans. These laborers endured brutal 12-hour shifts, working with basic tools in dangerous conditions. Treatment varied by nationality, with Russian and Ukrainian prisoners facing particularly severe conditions, many dying from malnutrition, disease, and exhaustion. As Allied invasion threats intensified in 1943, German command repurposed HO-8 into a casualty clearing station and emergency hospital. Following liberation in May 1945, British forces opened the tunnels to the public in July 1946. After a 1961 legal ruling granted ownership to private landholders, the complex was developed into Jersey War tunnels, housing the permanent Captive Island exhibition detailing everyday life during the occupation. Modern visitors experience a thought-provoking journey through the occupation story, including interactive displays about islanders' dilemmas, resistance efforts, and daily struggles. The museum preserves the original operating theater and ward areas while featuring military vehicles, including replica German tanks. Additionally, the unfinished tunnel exhibit uses holographic displays to demonstrate the harsh conditions forced laborers endured. Number 9. Weingut 1, Germany. In the forests near Mühldorf am Inn, Bavaria, the Third Reich commenced construction of a remarkably unique underground factory in 1944. Codenamed Weingut 1, Vineyard 1, this massive structure represented a desperate attempt to protect Germany's advanced weapons production from intensifying Allied bombing campaigns. Unlike typical tunnel bunkers, Weingut 1 featured an innovative construction method. Initially, workers created enormous gravel mounds upon which they poured reinforced concrete to a thickness of 3 meters. This created massive concrete arches spanning 85 meters wide, with an internal height of 32.2 meters. After concrete hardening, the gravel underneath was excavated through a specially designed extraction tunnel. This engineering approach eliminated the need for traditional wooden scaffolding while enabling rapid construction. The workforce behind this massive project reveals the darkest aspects of German fascists' Germany. Of approximately 10,000 total workers at the site, 8,500 were forced laborers, primarily Jewish concentration camp inmates and Soviet prisoners of war. Tragically, more than 3,000 forced laborers died from overwork, starvation, and SS brutality during construction. Those too weak to continue were often transported to Auschwitz. Despite the enormous human cost, Weingut 1 never fulfilled its intended purpose. By April 1945, as American forces approached, only 7 of the planned 12 concrete arches had been completed. The 9-story underground factory meant to produce Messerschmitt Me 262 jet engines never became operational. After the war, American forces discovered the partially finished structure with construction cranes still in place. In 1947, U.S. military engineers tested the bunker's resilience by detonating explosives that collapsed 6 of the 7 completed arches. Today, only 1 concrete arch remains standing as a somber memorial to the thousands who suffered and died during its construction. Number 8. Blockhaus des Perlecs, France. Looming among the forests of northern France, Blockhaus des Perlecs stands as an imposing concrete colossus, one of the most massive bunker structures in Hitler's Atlantic Wall defenses. This enormous fortification, located near Saint-Omer, was built with a terrifying purpose that could have altered the course of World War II. Constructed beginning in March 1943, this massive concrete fortress was designed primarily as the world's first V-2 rocket assembly, storage, and launch facility. The structure's immense dimensions reflect its ambitious purpose, with walls up to 5 meters thick and ceiling heights reaching 28 meters. Over time, construction consumed approximately 150,000 cubic meters of concrete. The German fascists' leadership viewed this facility as crucial to their vengeance weapon, Vergeltungswaffen, program targeting London, which resided just 188 kilometers away. As construction progressed, Allied reconnaissance detected the facility, prompting Operation Crossbow, a massive bombing campaign against Hitler's FIV weapon sites. On August 27, 1943, 187 B-17 flying fortresses dropped 368 tons of bombs on the site. These bombing campaigns proved remarkably effective, damaging the structure beyond repair and forcing the Germans to abandon plans for rocket launches from this location. Consequently, the facility never fired a single operational V-2 toward Britain. Today, Blockhaus des Perlecs serves as a sobering monument to German fascists' military ambition and the Allied determination to counter it. In fact, the French government designated it a historical monument in 1985. Visitors can explore exhibition halls housing rare V-1 and V-2 rocket components, alongside displays explaining the facility's connection to concentration camp labor. Moreover, the site attracts approximately 50,000 visitors annually who walk through the preserved sections, including the massive main hall and underground passages. The northwest face still bears visible bomb damage, a testament to Allied precision bombing that ultimately helped prevent this menacing structure from fulfilling its intended purpose. Number 7. B8 Bergkristall, Austria. Concealed beneath the Austrian town of St. Georgen an der Gusen, the B8 Bergkristall facility emerged as one of the Third Reich's most sophisticated underground manufacturing complexes. Officially established in March 1944, this vast subterranean installation stretched across 50,000 square meters of bomb-proof, gas-tight tunnels cutting through the Austrian countryside. Primarily designed for the assembly of the revolutionary Messerschmitt Me-262 jet fighter, B8 Bergkristall represented a desperate attempt to shield critical aircraft production from intensifying Allied bombing campaigns. The facility's remarkable output reached approximately 450 fully equipped jet plane fuselages monthly by April 1945. Throughout its operational period, Allied intelligence reports confirmed that 987 jet-propelled aircraft left the production lines before the war ended. The production process involved assembling fuselages and wings at Bergkristall before transporting them by railway during nighttime to various locations in southern Germany and Bohemia for final assembly. Security surrounding the operation was extraordinarily tight. Even German civilian employees were forbidden from revealing the town where they worked. Life for workers at Bergkristall reflected unimaginable brutality. Approximately 10,000 slave laborers toiled in the tunnels, 6,500 in construction, and 3,500 in production. These prisoners came primarily from the nearby Mauthausen-Gusen concentration camp complex, with many specifically selected for their technical expertise as physicists, chemists, or engineers. Jewish prisoners faced particularly horrific treatment, often surviving merely days in what prisoners called the Hell of Hells. Indeed, those assigned to tunnel construction had an average survival period of just 4 months. Workers endured 14-hour shifts in tunnels filled with thick dust requiring headlamps to see, resulting in approximately 100 deaths daily. Housing conditions proved equally deadly, with prisoners frequently lacking adequate shelter, food, clothing, and safe drinking water. On May 5, 1945, elements of the U.S. 11th Armored Division's 41st Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron liberated the facility. Staff Sergeant Al Kosiek and 23 men from the 1st Platoon Troop D discovered the installation was roughly 85% complete and fully operational. Afterward, U.S. forces thoroughly investigated the strategic site and removed critical machinery components until late July 1945. Once the Soviets took control of the area in accordance with post-war occupation agreements, they dismantled all remaining equipment and ultimately destroyed key sections of the tunnel system in November 1947 to prevent knowledge transfer. Number 6. Mittelbau, Dora Camp, Germany. Originally established as a sub-camp of Buchenwald concentration camp, Mittelbau Dora evolved into one of the Third Reich's most lethal underground weapons facilities. After Allied bombing destroyed the Peenemünde Research Center on August 18, 1943, German fascist authorities relocated their V-2 rocket production to a tunnel system within Konstein Mountain near Nordhausen, Thuringia. This existing underground fuel storage facility, built for the Wehrmacht beginning in 1936, would soon become synonymous with unprecedented suffering. Within the mountain's vast tunnel network, prisoners were forced to expand the underground complex for constructing Hitler's weapons of retaliation. By fall 1944, the facility reached full production capacity with a standing prisoner population of at least 12,000. The underground factory primarily manufactured V-2 ballistic missiles and V-1 flying bombs. Production escalated rapidly, from just 3 rockets, all defective, in January 1944 to 400 monthly by May, eventually maintaining 600 units monthly until February 1945. On September 8, 1944, the first V2 built at Mittelbau successfully launched targeting London. Prisoners initially lived entirely within the unstable tunnels, deprived of daylight and fresh air for months. Many thousands crammed into makeshift four-level wooden bunk beds in sleeping tunnels, former lateral chambers where hygienic conditions were catastrophic. The mortality rate at Dora Mittelbau exceeded most other concentration camps. Approximately 60,000 prisoners passed through the Mittelbau system, with at least 20,000 dying either at the camp or after transport elsewhere. Some prisoners risked their lives engaging in sabotage. More than 200 were publicly hanged for these acts. These aren't just old basements or dusty ruins. Some of these Nazi bunkers were hiding secrets for over 70 years. But why were they built so far from view? And what did people find inside that left even experts speechless? Stick around, because bunker number 2 is so creepy, even locals won't go near it. Number 5. Battery Todd, France. Positioned strategically along the French coast near Cape Grisnez, Battery Todd represented one of the most formidable elements of Hitler's Atlantic Wall defenses. Named after Fritz Todd, the German engineer who died in an aircraft accident, this intimidating artillery installation played a significant role in the German fascists' cross-channel threat against Britain. The battery's offensive capacity derived from 4 massive Krupp 380mm, 15-inch guns, each protected by reinforced concrete bunkers. With an impressive range of 55.7 kilometers, 34.6 miles, these cannons could easily reach the English coast. The installation fired its first shell on January 20, 1942, although it was officially inaugurated in February, with Admirals Karl Dönitz and Erich Raeder attending the ceremony. Throughout its operational period, the guns caused 3,059 alerts, 216 civilian deaths, and damage to 10,056 premises in Dover. Remarkably, despite frequent bombardment of slow-moving coastal convoys, no vessels were confirmed hit by the battery's fire. On September 29, 1944, as part of Operation Undergo, the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division launched their assault against the imposing fortification. At 6:35 a.m., Allied artillery opened fire, followed 10 minutes later by infantry moving behind a creeping barrage. This attack came after RAF bombing raids on September 26th and 28th, which dropped 855 tons of explosives on the area. The North Nova Scotia Highlanders encountered minimal resistance, reaching the gun houses without major opposition. By mid-morning, the German gunners had surrendered, with white flags appearing throughout the complex. In 1972, after 3 years of painstaking restoration work, the Musée du Mur de l'Atlantique opened inside Casemate 1. The museum houses thousands of artifacts including weapons, uniforms, and military equipment. Outside stands a remarkable German K5 railway gun, one of only 2 remaining worldwide, with its impressive 25-meter barrel capable of firing 240 kilo shells nearly 40 miles. Currently, the 4 original casemates remain visible on private land, with casemate 3 partially destroyed following a 1945 accidental explosion. Number 4. Siricourt, Fives 1 Bunker, France, codenamed Wasserwerk St. Paul, Waterworks St. Paul. The massive Siricourt Fives 1 bunker stands as one of the most heavily bombed German fascists' military sites in Europe. This colossal structure in northern France was designed as a fortified launch facility for V-1 flying bombs targeting London. Construction began in September 1943 on high ground approximately 1 kilometer north of the Hesdin-St. Paul Road. The Germans employed an innovative building technique called Verbunkerung, where engineers first constructed the roof flat on the ground, then excavated beneath it, sheltered from Allied bombs, to create the rest of the facility. The bunker would have connected to the main railway line from St. Paul to Abbeville, allowing trains carrying V-1s to enter the structure. Inside, storage capacity could house 150 missiles, with a launch aperture directed toward England. Ultimately, the bunker never fired a single V-1 missile, When construction was abandoned in April 1944, the exterior was nearly complete, yet interior excavation had barely begun. After the war, authorities quickly abandoned demolition plans. Instead, 80 German prisoners of war removed the launching ramp facing England and partially filled the bunker's interior. Today, the imposing concrete mass remains visible from nearby roads, standing as a testament to both German fascists' military ambition and Allied determination to neutralize it. The structure sits on private land and remains inaccessible to the general public. Nevertheless, it represents one of the most visually impressive V-weapon sites in northern France. Number 3. La Coupole, France. Beneath an immense concrete dome in northern France lies a gigantic underground complex that stands as one of the most impressive vestiges of World War II in Europe. La Coupole, located 5 kilometers from Saint-Omer in the Pas-de-Calais region, was constructed by Nazi Germany between 1943 to 1944 as a launch base for V-2 rockets aimed at London. The facility, originally codenamed Bauvorhaben 21, Building Project 21, featured a massive concrete dome with a 70-meter diameter and 5-meter thickness. This engineering marvel protected a network of tunnels housing storage areas, launch facilities, and crew quarters. Engineers designed the complex to store 500 V-2 rockets and potentially launch dozens daily against London and southern England. Initially, authorities planned approximately 2 kilometers of underground galleries, with an ambitious goal of 7 kilometers to ensure self-sufficiency through generators, offices, and even a hospital. First, workers constructed the dome on the plateau before excavating beneath it, a technique that prioritized protection from Allied bombing. Allied reconnaissance spotted construction activity at Wizerness in mid-August 1943 when Germans began laying extensive rail sidings. Over the following months, Allied forces conducted 16 separate air raids involving 811 bombers that dropped about 4,160 tons of bombs. Today, La Coupole functions as a remarkable history center and planetarium, attracting visitors worldwide. The museum, which opened in May 1997, presents exhibits in 4 languages: French, English, Dutch, and German. Visitors enter through the Ida Tunnel before taking a lift to the main exhibition area beneath the dome. Number 2. Project Riza, Poland. Beneath Poland's Owl Mountains lies Project Riza, Giant, one of Hitler's most mysterious and ambitious wartime construction endeavors. Between 1943 and 1945, the German fascists regime excavated an extensive network of underground tunnels in what was then German territory, creating a subterranean complex shrouded in secrecy to this day. The massive construction encompassed 7 underground structures across the Owl Mountains region and beneath Książ Castle. Workers carved approximately 9 kilometers of tunnels through solid rock, creating 25,000 square meters of underground space with a volume of 100,000 cubic meters. Undoubtedly, the scale was impressive, yet the project reached merely 11% completion before abandonment. The exact purpose remains contested among historians. Original documentation appears deliberately destroyed, leaving numerous theories. Firstly, some evidence suggests it would serve as Hitler's headquarters, supported